Hola, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Steven Universe, which we'll be talking about today. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla, and today I'm joined by Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
And Haruun Muse.
What's up?
Today we are discussing Escapism, the latest episode of Steven Universe. We previously discussed it at Overly Animated. We gave immediate reactions after it aired on Monday. You can find that at overlyanimated.com. You can also subscribe to our Steven Universe feed at iTunes, at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. And wherever you listen to us, we always appreciate any ratings or reviews or comments you want to leave us. And today we'll be getting into some of the comments that you've left us in the past couple of days. Also, some of us have had more time to deal with escapism to let it settle in our minds for a little bit. So before we get deeper into comments, I guess we'll talk a little bit about initial thoughts with the episode. Beatrice, you watched the episode recently. How did you feel in general about it?
I don't know what the consensus is with everybody, but I enjoyed it because I basically watched that and the previous episode together in one go. And I always like when episodes play with sound and like prevent people from actually having dialogue. I always enjoy that. And they did it in the beginning of the previous episode. And then with this one, we see a lot more of them kind of playing with that. Sure, it's just grunting, but I like when writers do that, when they're like, let's take away one of the key ways to get our thoughts across and let's see what we do. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was like a nice little breather. Does it push the plot forward? No. Is this something we would most likely see in earlier Steven Universe episodes? Probably, except for the ending, probably. But, I had a good time.
Okay, so that's a fairly positive take. Haruun, how did you feel about the episode?
Like what Beatrice mentioned before, I felt like this was like a calm, relaxed, nonchalant, breather episode where not much lore or plot heavy stuff happens, but it was just like amazing to watch, especially since we finally got the song Escapism in almost like a year and a half, which was like released back in like 2017, which is crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, that definitely was floating around for a long time, but it seems you also enjoyed the slower pace of it. That's good.
Yeah.
If you listen to the original podcast, you probably heard that I was a bit frustrated with the episode initially. Maybe exasperated by the atmosphere of just being around the internet, which was reacting very harshly to the episode. I think now that I've had a couple of days to sleep on it, I'm still in the place where like it's not as good as the most recent episodes have been, but it's not the end of the world. Like I do think that people have gone all the way on the other end of overreaction, that this is like one of the worst episodes of the show, and I just don't want to dive into that side of things.
Not another Ronaldo, no.
Yeah, it's very similar to that kind of thing, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit about breather episodes in general in Steven Universe, because I feel like this kind of reaction has happened before in the fandom, so we'll definitely talk about that going through some of these comments. Beatrice mentioned something about the use of silence and of sound in this episode, and that goes with one comment we have here from overlyanimated.com. You can comment directly on our site if you're interested in doing that. Steve, who has appeared on podcasts before with us, he said, I think this episode is underappreciated. I think this episode is freaking awesome. Hot take, this episode might be better than Together Alone. I was watching an old silent cartoon from the 1920s the other day, and this episode does feel like a love letter to the really old school cartoons. Beatrice, this goes a little bit in line with what you were saying with the sound stuff. Do you want to elaborate on some stuff that stood out to you in terms of like the sound design of this episode?
I mean, first I just want to ask Steve, what cartoon were you watching? Because I want to watch it.
Old silent cartoon from the 1920s is
just so nonchalant, like a 1920s.
Is it like a Looney Tunes cartoon or something? Or?
I mean, I'm just like, which one? I want to know. I don't know. I just think, especially with not necessarily. I mean, I'm not very I don't have much expertise with sound. If it sounds nice, I like it. That's usually how it goes with me. But for me, I just think that I kind of disagree. I just think sometimes people take sound for granted, and then I like when there is kind of when writers take. Oh, I kind of already, this is kind of me just saying the same thing again, but I like when writers kind of challenge themselves and go like, okay, in this one we will take away something that is taken for granted. We'll take it away and see how we can still tell a story. And, I think for me, the most powerful moment of the episode was at the end when Steven arrives and sees, like, on Lion and sees his dad, and he doesn't have an arm or a leg. And his dad, you can read the lips, which is so unique for animation, because usually with animation, like, the mouth moves, and I oftentimes, like, you don't really read the lips. It just moves up and down. It's fine. It matches it, but the fact that I still could read the lips just is a testament to the animation, a testament to how like us knowing the characters and being so confident in understanding the characters that we know what they would say in these situations. And I don't know, I just think it was very powerful, and I could, like, even though Greg didn't say anything, I could hear him say it. So, yeah. So I just think I really enjoyed it, and, I haven't had a chance to listen to your podcast, so I want to, like, talk about this, like, negative reaction. What are you guys talking about?
Okay. Before we get into that, Haroon, how did you feel about the whole the episode, just a lot of it being not talking at all? Like, were you enjoying it? Were you confused by it? How did you feel going through that? Because I think that was an experience for all of us, diving back into the Watermelon Stevens again.
Yeah, like, honestly, I had no problem with, like, any dialogue in this episode. Like, you could tell, you could read the lips of what the characters were saying, like, with Bismuth and Greg, but, like, I just really was not interested in the watermelons, like, or them, like, returning back from, like, season 3. I just wasn't interested in any of that, but I found it really amusing. But, like, in a way, I feel like give props to the writers, because they managed to pull it off where you didn't have to, like, have any lines or anything for the characters just to perform the way they did today, which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I want to bring up in regards to the negative reaction, some of that does have to do with the nature of this episode, which is a lot of it is right. So it's like that does. I think that understandably frustrates some people watching a lot of that, and I think by the end of the episode, on the first watch, I got to that point too, where it was beginning to be a little irritating. Also, there has been some discussion of, especially the ending scene, where it's meant to be like a very swelling emotional thing, right? With escapism playing in the background as Steven, the dying watermelon, is asking for backup from Bismuth and Greg. Some people were saying that grouping of the song alongside the scene was a bit conflicting, and they didn't exactly blend together. And I definitely got that on second watch. Like, I was trying to focus on what the song was saying, like how it was relating to what was going on. It was just kind of difficult to balance both things, like the song and the scene going on, especially in contrast with something like Familiar, which we just had 2 episodes ago, which I think did a lot better in blending its song with what was going on in terms of the actual episode. So since those episodes were so close together, I think that definitely adds to the contrast of how this scene played out and its usage of music. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with how escapism was used here.
I mean, here's the thing though, with Familiar, it was a musical sequence, like, within it, like, it wasn't used as kind of like, it wasn't, for an Escapism, it wasn't Stevani singing a song and doing a number and doing a thing. It was her, because I'm assuming that was AJ Mashaka singing it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a song playing for mood, really, than anything else. So I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare a song that was meant to be sung within the sequence and not just there for mood, for the sake of mood. It's one thing to find it jarring because the lyrics don't fit, because that happens sometimes when people put the song in, because maybe it sounds nice, the melody's there and it works, but maybe the lyrics don't necessarily clash with what's happening. But to compare it to Familiar or something like that, I don't think is fair, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting point to make. Like, it serves as mood music, and I guess that also comes into play the fact that we had this song for so long. So that the part of it is the hype that the fandom gave. Like, okay, this sounds like an important, meaningful song for I think almost over a year. It had been theorized like maybe Pink Diamond sings it about wanting to leave the Homeworld Society, or maybe Lapis sings it at some point. But like in the end, it almost comes off as just literally Stevani singing about wanting to get out of prison. And so when in your head you've like devised all these like, oh, this song could be very meaningful in the show, and then it ends up being used like that. So that also, I think, contributed to the negative reaction. Whereas, as you mentioned, using it as a mood thing in the episode, that's a perfectly fine reason to add a song. But expectations are a hell of a drug in this case.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I had no idea it was like had been released. Like, I had this. Me watching the episode was like the first time
you were pure.
So, not that, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, so maybe expectations do come into play, because I was like, ooh, this is such a nice, like, lovely song, and then. No.
Yeah, I had like this complete theory about who was going to sing Escapism. Like, everyone thought it would be either like Homeworld Pearl or like Lapis singing. News broke out saying that it might be Stevani. Everyone, maybe even on the subreddit or even on Tumblr, theorized that it would probably be Stevani going back to the Pink Diamond flashback where they're singing Escapism, but it never really came out that way. It was just more like a background song, which I feel like what you mentioned before was what added to the negative impression from this episode today.
Mm-hmm. But I think it is worth pointing out that like Escapism on its own is a beautiful song, and I don't think that
it really is.
Its inclusion in this episode shouldn't harm the fact that like it's still a great song. Even as Steven Universe has had many songs, but I still think that like if you want to argue for this being a top 10 song or a top 5 song in the show, I think you'd be within your rights to do it because it is well done. I do especially like, while we're still on the topic of sound design, when Steven is in the water, just floating in the ocean, that's when Greg's guitar is beginning to go.
Yeah.
And so, like that build up of Greg's guitar, like the sad music, like that's also pretty great as an intro to the rest of the song later. So I just really enjoyed that little piece of combination of music and what's going on the screen too.
Probably.
Now, over on YouTube, we have other comments going on, and this is a little bit more of, I guess, a more broad description of what many fans thought of when they initially watched this. Yin and Yang's comment reads, my main takeaway is just, why did I need to watch this? Steven's powers are already so loosely defined, I didn't need them to take the most roundabout of ways and have this entire watermelon set up. Knowing how the show is, I'm willing to believe that everything that happens is a metaphor or foreshadowing for something related to Steven's current issues, and while that is interesting in its own right, filling an entire episode with symbolism rather than actual substance made for a frustratingly slow watch. That said, the song was great, and Steven sleeping on Connie's lap was very cute. Also, Stevani falling from the window in the beginning of the episode didn't make sense since they can just float. So there's a bit to unpack there.
So this is going to be like an escapism, like defense podcast, is what you're telling me.
I think that's where we're headed. Although there are positive comments I've put in the back, but
okay.
But defend escapism from this interpretation of why does this episode exist in this like action-y arc that we've been going through? What is its purpose?
Because this isn't symbolism without substance. The substance is everything that has been leading up to this moment. Steven can't speak I hit my mic. Steven can't speak I'm getting excited. Steven can't speak. No one's listening to him. He feels incapable. He feels immobile. He doesn't have his hands. Like, he can't reach the people he needs to reach. This is all basically the visual representation of the helplessness he feels on Homeworld. And everything that's been leading up to this point, that he brings people together. That's his strength, and that's what gets him from the islands back home to Beach City. But that's the whole point. This is all like emotional, like stress and anxiety that Steven has been feeling and has internalized. Would I say is it self-indulgent? Because do we necessarily need an entire episode? Maybe, but I mean, I think that's what's so. nice about that's what's so refreshing about Steven Universe is that it can take an episode to be self-indulgent. It allows itself this. It's earned its right as a great show to allow itself to take time to really sink into the symbolism and sink into a character and explore it. And maybe it's not in the way that a lot of people liked, but to say it's without substance is absurd, because that means that people are just completely blind and short-sighted by everything else that's happening.
All right.
Right on.
That is pretty strong. And I will say, like, I am guilty of this, because at initial watch, I was like, okay, try to explain symbolism to me, but it doesn't fit with the watermelons. Like, I couldn't get past the fact that we were using the watermelons. And so I was part of the whole, I'm kind of blind to all this stuff going on in the background. But yeah, after thinking it through and also reading other people's more measured thoughts on the matter, you make a good point, Beatrice, that this is also a place where we're focusing in on Steven's character going into rock bottom, sort of. Like, at the beginning of this episode, Steven is expressing his doubts to Connie, right? Like, we shouldn't have done this, so why am I even doing this? I'm useless here. And then he goes to the watermelon, where it feels even more helpless because he can't even build a boat by himself. He ends up shaking his head at the tribalism of the warrior diamonds and the pacifist watermelons. Similarly to how he also feels like his efforts to bring the diamonds and the gems together isn't working. So, like, there is a lot of mirroring going on between how Steven interacts with the watermelons and how Steven is currently in a hole with the diamonds right now. I guess the problem ends up being that due to the lack of dialogue, you do have to focus a lot on the imagery side of things. And when you're distracted by, hey, these are watermelon Steven is back, sometimes that does take a little bit to get past. But I definitely do think that this episode has helped a lot if you consider it in that light of this being another Steven's character episode. And the fact that this is quite similar positioning to another episode that did cause a little bit of problems in the past with Adventures in Light Distortion, if you guys remember that episode, where that happened before the zoo arc, and we were like, hey, we're going to space finally, and then we just spend this episode in a ship, kind of mostly humor, but then at the end we get into like Steven also like letting out his emotions in like helplessness as well. And so like that kind of episode feels like it needs to happen before these big moments in order to set up Steven breaking through. And so I think that that's important for a character, and it's in a similar place here and a similar theme as well. So I think that is an important thing to take away from Escapism. That at the end of the day, this is Steven Universe, so we're giving focus back to Steven and where he is mentally.
And like, let it be known, we're getting a 44-minute special within 2 weeks, so not every episode can always be action-packed.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy too. Like, when we think about the context of this, like, we've been on like such a run of episodes of stuff happening from probably dating all the way back to the beginning to A Single Pale Rose, and then from there we've just had stuff happening, new characters added, like for maybe 10 episodes in a row until we hit Escapism, where we finally go back to old friends in our watermelons and something a lot more low key than we've been having in these past couple of episodes. So while people are disappointed that the run doesn't keep going in terms of like even more new stuff, but at the same time it probably ends up being necessary in the grand scheme of the story.
And I will say that, I mean, if you just compare Steven of now, because this is kind of like this would be like an adventure from like first season. You could say that Steven would find himself in, and the fact that Steven not once gets distracted. He always is wanting to get home. He's focused. He has people he has to save. He has his goal. He even like just starts crying because no one's helping him, and he's like gets desperate. The fact that, and it shows that he's willing to lose an arm and a leg to save the people that he loves. Like, that to me shows so much growth from Steven. And I just think people are not giving the watermelon people enough credit. What I have to say.
I also want to add that what I also enjoyed in the beginning of the episode is that we get the Connie and Steven interaction which has really been awesome this past season because we've been really getting this role reversal with one another. Like here we have like Connie in this episode cheering up Steven. She's not sad that they're trapped in a dungeon and that they have no way of escaping. All their comrades and friends are poofed. She's just being happy and trying to stay positive for Steven. And here it's just like the role reversal we had for like last season where Steven was the one that was always pushing Connie to do things. And here we have Connie doing it now this season. Just as we saw in last episode where she was encouraging him to dance in their fusion.
Yeah.
For sure, comparing the Connie Steven relationship to where it is now, like it is definitely quite a trip, and especially in the light of this entire episode, which is showing how Steven has really gone back to his dark mental place of not really thinking that he can change things, and Connie's there to be the grounding influence, so that is very different from how it used to be. So yeah, Connie and Steven, I have expressed their cuteness in the past, and they continue to be cute here in this episode.
And mature, healthy relationship. When one needs to be the anchor, they will be the anchor. Like, yeah. I just love them.
Yeah, they're great.
That's something you need in animation nowadays.
Yeah.
Now we can go a little bit into the lighter stuff. Well, I guess we'll stick to YouTube. There's another comment here from Heth Marie, who posits a different reason perhaps for this episode. She mentions, I think the show wants us to remember that Steven created sentient life on Earth before knowing he was a diamond. I think the revelation of Steven to Homeworld is that gems can stop fighting organic life because they are compatible. He literally proves this. So I have seen some sentiment like this elsewhere, that maybe this episode is also there to remind us that Steven has already done the creation of organic life, and that somehow that will play into the finale. There are various theories floating around. I don't know how you guys feel about the idea of will Steven being able to bring stuff to life come back in the finale? Do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, I feel like what this show really does is that they're always known for foreshadowing things ahead of time. Like we've had, which is kind of ridiculous, that one episode where Sapphire was like, "Wait, Ruby's gonna be a cowboy," and she started crying. And then next episode we got the question, and Ruby's a cowboy.
Yeah, that was one of the more obvious moments, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's called Battle of Heart and Mind, and I feel like one of Steven's strongest powers is his mind, his telepathy power, and his astral projection. So that might come to play in the special.
Mm-hmm. Beatrice, any thoughts on how Steven's powers might come into play in the finale?
I mean, they're definitely going to come into play. How? Steven has so many powers now that it's like, there are a million ways this finale can go. Because they're like, I don't know, is Lars gonna come back, and is it gonna be like surprise, like we can like I can bring people back to life, or is it gonna be, I don't know, he's gonna astral project and then somehow do some fancy thing, and then I don't know, is he gonna like get into the mind of White Diamond? Who knows? Like there's like a lot that can be done. So I'm sure that his powers are definitely gonna be involved. And how is anyone's guess?
Maybe he might have the power to create a new reality, I guess, or something.
Okay, I mean, I don't think he's Scarlet Witch. but that would be.
He brought
really
someone
cool.
back to life. That's just so ridiculous.
True. But I don't know if he can create an entire alternate reality where everything's fine again. I wouldn't like.
I'm just throwing stuff, yeah.
Do we go down the path of figuring out which gem represents which Marvel character?
Oh my god, I would be so down.
So Garnet, she sees the future, so she's like Doctor Strange?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Amethyst is a shapeshifter, so...
Dylan's gonna kill us.
Yeah. We've been serious for like 20 minutes so far.
Right,
so
yeah, exactly.
I think we're allowed one tangent here.
Amethyst is Mystique.
Yeah, exactly. But she's purple though.
That's okay. Purple, blue, it's within the same spectrum. It's fine.
Yeah, I accept this. And Pearl, we need someone who's neurotic, but also like able to keep themselves together in a fight. Who's the most?
Is it bad that I was like, she's Wolverine because he has like a spear. She has a spear. He has like claws. It works.
Well, Wolverine without as much confidence, I guess.
Yeah,
and so more neurotic,
too.
all that stuff.
One of the top things about Pearl's her intelligence, so.
Dude, Black Widow! Because, like, the ballet, the dancing.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. So there we go. We have cast the What If Marvel and Steven Universe crossed over. Good.
And then Steven would just be Captain America with the shield. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's the easiest one. And then which one is Thanos? Is it White Diamond or Yellow Diamond or their combination?
No, it's white.
It's
I feel like it's white.
Yeah.
Thanos has to be.
So, well, hopefully we get to see the snap at minute 33 of the Nets finale. So, another comment down this path of this potentially foreshadowing something for the future. Eggman on overtheanimated.com, they commented, I think this episode was a good reminder that the homeworld visit was for Earth, specifically to heal the corrupted gems there. Maybe it could have been done better, but I was really impressed with the organic, colorful visuals of the island and how that contrasted so heavily with the sharp-angled, monotone homeworld. Even the music was noticeably more human. There was a specific emphasis on acoustics in this episode. So, first, going down the path of the music, since we already touched a little bit on that, but I do agree with this, that we've been in Homeworld for like 3 episodes, we've gotten a bunch of weird gems and weird music going on, so just going back to like, like the little island music they got going on, and then the guitar stuff, like that was all very peaceful. So I guess in that sense, it is a stronger contrast. But going back into this potentially foreshadowing stuff, at the beginning of this episode, Connie does have to lay out again to Steven, like, hey, we're here for Earth for the corrupted gems. So it's interesting that so far in this arc, that's kind of been left by the wayside, since we've been focusing more on just getting close to the diamonds first before we really get into any like Earth demands. But I just wonder how you guys feel about that exchange of Connie having to kind of remind Steven of their purpose there on Homeworld, or how that fits into Steven's character in this arc.
Well, like, I feel like Steven, he knew what their mission was. He was just doubting himself at the time, because one of Steven's biggest insecurities is that he always tries his best and he just never gives it all up. That's just how he was just feeling down at the moment. Connie was there just to reassure him. So I don't really think he forgot it was meant to be a real mission.
Yeah. Beatrice, any thoughts on how this fits into Steven's characters in this arc?
I mean, I think Steven is one of Steven's strengths and flaws is that he wants to fix everything, and he sees a bird with a broken wing and wants to heal it, you know? So when he came to Homeworld and he's like, oh, like all these, he sees like how these people haven't grieved really properly for Pink Diamond and all this stuff. He sees all the stuff that's wrong, and he's trying to fix things for Earth, and he's focused. But I think him failing and him like not getting it, I think Connie reminding him like, look, we're here for Earth, like don't worry, like, you know, we were there for like 3 episodes, and in a lot of them, he hasn't had really a chance to it's just been a lot of diamond and gem stuff. So I think Connie, like, being there and reassuring him, like, look, we're here for Earth, like, that, all that stuff that they're dealing with, all this politics, like, it's, like, this is our mission. Like, so for her to, like, be that compass for him, I think, it's just, if anything, it's just to recenter him. And I think not only with her saying that, but by him going back to Earth, I think that's going to help boost him up in a way that, that just, I don't know, that I think he needed. And it just kind of goes to show that even just with the music, right? Like, on Earth, it's all calm and it's soothing. Whereas on the gem world, it is foreign, it's different. So for him to kind of what's that word? Not regenerate, to kind of recharge.
Yeah.
By going back home, by having Connie reminding him of what's important. I think that's what I think that had to do with in terms of his character. And I just think that by that point, Steven was just feeling lost, and Connie and that adventure he went on just kind of just set the course right again.
Just like imagine him going to Hormel without Connie, but just with the gems. Like I would not just picture that. He would just be self-doubting himself.
Yeah, like he needs that human element there as well. Because I think a lot of times, sometimes the gems can overpower him, or like his gem side and the gem lore and the gem history and all the things that are happening in the gem world and things that gems are doing can sometimes overpower him. So I think having his human side and his human best friend I don't know where they are in their relationship. I don't know if that's ever been confirmed.
Yeah.
Like I think that being what grounds him is what sets Steven apart from all the other gems as always. And that's why his creations, like the Watermen people, are, even if they are at war with themselves, like they are thriving and they're not killing anything. They're living and they're prosperous in that sense.
Yeah, and this arc has used a lot of symbolism, not only in this episode, but in previous ones. One that sticks out to me, familiar, that episode begins with a kind of a nightmare sequence where Steven begins vomiting out rose hair in front of White Diamond. And now we've seen the rest of this arc flow out, the interpretation of Steven perhaps letting the gem side dominate his actions on Homeworld and not letting the human side do things. Like that kind of fits into one of the early interpretations of that. Like Steven was just letting the rose side of him do too much. So I like being able to connect early symbolism to what's now happened now that we're a couple of episodes into the story here.
Yeah. I mean, we're witnessing him trying to like pretend like he's his own mother. He has her attire, he has her pebbles. And he's trying to like just impersonate her as Pink Diamond when he should just be acting like himself.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what we're building up to in this finale. That at some point it's like no more, stop calling me Pink, I guess, or something along those lines. But with that, I think we will enter the final comment, which I think will have the most for us to talk about. Steven LP on Discord. By the way, you can join us on Discord at overlyanimated.com/Discord if you want to talk to us directly, chat with us about Steven Universe or the various shows. But there we chatted a little bit after the episode aired, and this exchange happened where Steven LP wrote, "Who inhabits Watermelon Steve when Steve is not doing so? Are their consciousness temporarily pushed out, returning when Steven departs? If so, in this case, one moment they're happily walking about on a watermelon island, next moment they're staring at three strangers on a foreign beach, dehydrated, dying, and missing an arm and a leg, at which point they probably start screaming." And then Phoenician responds, "Yeah, if those watermelon people are sapient, then this play by Steven is very morally questionable." So,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Once Steven leaves that watermelon, is he dead? Does the watermelon Steven come back and see himself dying? What went on once Steven left his watermelon body?
I feel like Lion just ate him.
That was dark. Oh no. I'd like to think that the next episode or special, whatever that we get, when they come back to Earth, you'll see this little watermelon that's maybe a little soggy, but is using like a little cane or something, and it's fine. And it's all good, or it went back to its island, and we'll just have a very quick shot of it, and then that's the end. But no, they're right. It is kind of morally questionable to take control of a life. And I don't know what happens to it. I'm assuming that it was in a way kind of pushed out or went to sleep or whatever and then wakes up on a beach. But, maybe when Steven closes his eyes, the being dies. That's what I assume, that the being died, but Steven went back. Which is still it's still morally questionable because essentially Steven killed the thing the second that he took control of it. That's what it was destined to be, just this vessel that was just going to die the second Steven left. So Yeah, it's not great. I'm still rooting for the quick shot of them later, happy with the island and safe.
I'm glad you're optimistic about this. I'm on the side of, yeah, that watermelon died pretty much as soon as Steven left that melon's vessel. He may have had a brief shot of just, hey, these aren't people I recognize, and then he just went to rot in the beach sun. But if they stay alive, would bismuth putting the watermelon in a refrigerator work? Or at that point, is the watermelon just too far gone? Because I feel like with fruits, you get to a point where, like, once they've been out too long, like, even if you put them in the fridge, when you take them back out, they're still not really edible anymore. So was the watermelon Steven too far gone at this point?
I don't think so, because, like, he's just missing a leg and an arm out. He's still functioning like a watermelon.
Functioning like a watermelon, okay.
And look,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't get too crazy deep into the physiology of these watermelons, because if you remember when Steven, as the watermelon, was like pelting seeds at the boat's sail to make it move, that was like an endless supply of seeds. Like at one point they have to disappear, they have to run out if we were actually going to be very nitpicky about the physiology. So I think I think it's fine. Or hey, look, we don't know the lifespan of these watermelons. You know, we don't know these watermelon people. We don't know how long they last. Maybe they're like flies and they only live like a couple days. So like maybe the thing was like already on its way out. So who knows?
That's a way to justify it. Like, yeah, this watermelon was old anyway, so
I'm just saying.
Occupy this one.
It served a grander purpose.
I mean, in their first appearance in the episodes back in season 1, we had like thousands of them being killed and killing like one another. So
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the ones that we see here in this society, are they the same watermelons that we saw in Super Watermelon Island, or are we already on a totally different generation of melons?
I mean, it might be a different generation, but I think it's still the same island.
Well, it's still the same island, but I mean, like, are these the same melons is what I'm asking.
That is a very good question.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Yeah. But
The religion, though, is interesting because that seems to have survived, but it's split into two branches, similar to how civilization works, right? Like somebody invents Christianity and goes, hey, I believe in this kind of Christianity, and then the other person goes, no, I want this kind. And so we've seen religion begin to develop. If you were a melon, would you prefer to be on the pacifist side or the warrior side?
I mean, like, I would hope I was in the pacifist side. Would I be though? That is the question.
So you don't trust yourself enough to.
I don't know. I'm just like, look, like, I just took a BuzzFeed quiz and got a Dora, which means I'm like a soldier. But also, I would like to be pacifist. Like, I have morals. So it's like, I don't know where I would fall. BuzzFeed, make the quiz, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Haroon, do you have thoughts on which religion you would subscribe to?
Like Beatriz mentioned, yeah, I have morals too. I'm a actual human being with common decency, so I'll probably be a pacifist. So I'm not just gonna straight up and just kill people for no reasons or like go into battle.
Now, it's interesting though, because although these they fashion themselves as warrior melons, but they threaten them with the spears without ever really like doing damage to them. So I also wonder if this is all just like a facade, like they pretend to be violent to keep people away, but they would never actually kill someone. I wonder like what their limits are. Like melons and morals. But actually, we from the ticker we have a final late entry here from Tumblr. Latte Fots 3 sent in a feedback in the middle of our recording here. He mentioned that the mind plane, I don't know what else to call it, was the White Diamond background, and I think that represents a mental link between White Diamond and every gem in Homeworld, and this is how she knows Steven escaped the tower and he sent for backup. So that's a late theory to come in here. I don't know if you guys are interested in thinking about how Steven's powers may have accidentally activated a link to White Diamond.
I think we saw it earlier back in Together Alone, where he had that dream where he was coughing up Rose's hair. We saw a white diamond in his dream. So I feel like in a way, both diamonds share a connection with one another. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd buy I'd buy a link between him and White Diamond. And the thing is, I still very much believe the White Diamond, there's something off about White Diamond in terms of just her mental stability. I don't know, like, there's just something about that smile, even with her pearl, there's just something about it that creeps me out. So maybe it just got to the point where if she is connected to like all the gems or all the diamonds or whatever, maybe, you know, something, it became too much and then it broke her or something. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised.
The fact that she managed to like change her pearl's appearance and her voice, you can tell she has mind ability. So, but at the same time, we don't know that much about her. All we hear just getting information from characters about what she's like. So.
Yeah, and like the theory is that it's like mind control with Pearl, but like who knows if the diamonds also have like physical capabilities to change the gems too. Like we still need to get that sorted out as well. So there's a lot of stuff that with White Diamond we don't know, and so I think that something like that where Steven's powers somehow connect to White Diamond, I think that is in play just because at the end of the day they're both diamonds. So like that in that sense it sort of makes sense. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are we like, it's been confirmed, right, that Pearl was like Pink's like actual like Pearl from forever, right? Has that been confirmed or no?
I think someone mentioned in Joe Johnson, the supervising director's Tumblr, saying that she was made specifically for Pink Diamond, so.
Okay. I'm just like, she wasn't pink, but she was pink in the dream. And I'm like, because if we're talking about like changes in appearance, then how come like Pearl was able to change from like Fury?
May I introduce you to the theory that the pink Pearl you saw in that dream sequence is actually White Pearl today?
I mean, that could be, but I'm just saying, like, if that's the case, then how was she able to change her appearance when, like, if we're gonna add value to like White Diamond being able to change her Pearl's appearance and her voice and everything, then we have to also acknowledge that Pink somehow was able to change her Pearl's appearance and not make her all pink. So we have to acknowledge that, like, if one does it, then the other can do it, which means that's not as special of a ability.
Yeah, also, like, I think there's still the open possibility that, like, if this Pink Pearl was the original Pink Diamond's Pearl, and then Pink Pearl got turned into White Pearl, then our version of Pearl maybe was made purposefully not pink as to avoid
you lost me. You lost me.
There's too many pearls in this show. Well, no, that's a lie. We
only have like 4, so
yeah. There's only 4, and they're all great.
I mean 5 with Rhodonite, so Rhodonite's pearl, so it's 5.
That's true, actually. But yeah, so we could always use more pearls, but at the same time, talking about all the different pearls makes it a little more confusing.
I just want them all to have like different, like, and not change their names, but it'd be like, I don't know, have Yellow Pearl go by Yellow or something. I don't know.
Well, what if I call them by their initials?
Yeah.
So look, PP is now
no,
WP.
We're not doing PP. We're not doing that. No, she's just Pearl. She's just Pearl.
Just Pearl.
It's just
OP,
Pearl
the
JP.
Original P.
Oh, OPA. Okay. So what if OP? No, I'm gonna stop trying to explain this.
It's not working.
Yeah. So yeah, that covers all of the comments that I've gathered here today for Escapism Talk. I don't know if you guys were able to watch the promo that aired after the episode.
No, I unfortunately did not.
Okay, well we'll keep you pure, but for the most part, that has a lot of exciting stuff that will happen in 2 weeks. The Battle of Heart and Mind is the name of the event. I believe Change Your Mind is the actual name of the episode, but all that will happen on January 21st on Monday, about a week and a half from now, and we at Overly Animated will be here to cover that probably as soon as that airs. So stay tuned to Overly Animated if you want to get immediate reactions to that. You can find out all the info on our podcast at overlyanimated.com. As we mentioned earlier, you can join us on Discord if you want to share with us your reactions to Escapism or any other animated content we cover here at overlyanimated.com/Discord. We would also appreciate any financial support you want to leave us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Sam, aka Suitcase Sam. When is Suitcase Sam showing up in Steven Universe again? Who knows? But thank you, Sam, for your patronage. Thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, and Hugh. Besides Steven Universe, in the meantime, we have coverage of Ruby going on. We might have some She-Ra coverage soon.
We will.
We might have, we might have some Miraculous Ladybug conversation soon. I'm trying to think if there are any major shows going on. January is
Young Justice.
Young Justice
exactly.
is definitely going on. If you want to stuff even edgier than Steven Universe, White Pearl theories, then you got Young Justice over there. And so yeah, we cover a wide variety of shows here at Overly Animated, so even if Steven Universe ends up going on a long hiatus, like it usually does after events like these, we will still have a lot of other stuff to talk about, and you'll have a lot of other shows to check out in the meantime. And we'll be here to talk about them and recommend them or let you know what we think about them. But yeah, with that, we will be signing off. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you when the giant Steven Universe event happens in a couple of weeks. Adios.
Bye.
See you next time.